So, hello everyone, and warm welcome for today's session on behalf of Coaching Journey community. And thank you so much for joining. And I'm sure we all are excited, like Sunita mentioned few minutes back, to hear from Dr. Abhishek, right? So, thank you so much, Abhishek, for accepting our invite for today's session. And yes, we all are excited to hear from you. And to all of you, let me tell you that this is our second monthly summit session from the Coaching Journeys group community. And before we start our session, I do have a quick poll for you just to understand how much you all know about the community. Okay. Because I'm just curious, we all are there in the group and we are not aware sometimes what is happening. So let's have a quick poll, and I want all of you to participate in that poll. It's just a quick poll. Let me know if you can see the poll on your screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Hey, no cheat sheet. You don't have to go through the resource doc now. I'll be ending the ending the poll in a minute. Okay. Okay. So I'm sure people are now going to the resource doc. And I could not see anyone answered yet, or people have answered.
We have, but
Okay. Let's
it
let's.
is asking for a relaunch.
It
Is it?
disappeared quickly. That's why.
Is it? Is it?
It
Okay.
disappeared.
Yeah. Let me relaunch then again if you want. It'll be for a 60 seconds. Okay. And now everyone have seen. Okay. Now we have
Oh,
25,
yes.
25, 35, 25. Okay. Now it's time actually.
No, there's a change.
Yes. So now we have last. Okay. So now I think we have good number of answers with varying answers. So let me end the poll and check in what's the real answer. Okay. So let me do one thing. What I'll do is let's see it together. Actually, what's the answer? Okay. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah, let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, Namrata, we can see
Yes.
something is coming.
Okay.
We
So
can
you
see your WhatsApp chat.
Yes, yes. So when you go to your WhatsApp and when you go to the coaching conversation group, and the description, there is this resource doc, and let's see how many pages it has. It has 4 pages. Okay. Yes. And as you can see, there are so many things which are there. We have lot of resources over there. And if you have not yet gone through this resource doc, I'll I'll just request you to go through this resource doc to explore whatever is there in this gift box for you. There are so many things which you can get benefited from this. Okay. So with that, let's start our today's session. And let me introduce our speaker for the day, right? So we are fortunate enough to have a speaker who is multi-talented yet humble personality. He is a leadership coach, international trainer, psychologist, psychometrician, consultant, signature and handwriting analyst. He has 15 years of industry experience and he is the founder of PDF Consultant. He has experience to wear multiple hats and he knows exactly when to wear the hat, which hat, right? And why to wear that particular hat. And I'm sure we all are excited to hear from him to understand what are different challenges as a coach we can face in a corporate setting, right? So let's welcome Dr. Abhishek. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
right now no hats on my head. It would be nice.
The invisible hats of trainer, consultant, and coach. and multiple hats. Okay. Okay. So since we have our today's session based on a theme of corporate coaching challenges, the first thing which I would like to know from you, Abhishek, and before that, would you like to add anything for our audience before we start the session?
Okay, thanks, Navita. So technically, I love this particular topic basically because we see it in the two different perspectives. People who do coaching from ICF or Marshall Goldsmith, two kinds of people are there. One, internal people who are working in an organization who are on the senior level, who wanted to expand their wings from a leader to a mentor coach in the organization. They do it. The flip side of it are people who are interested in coaching, like trainers, like psychologists, or people who are doing a lot of freelancing work, just to make sure that they get a very stabilized, stable level of working. They go for coaching. And when we have two sets of people in that, both the places we have challenges. Internally, also, when a person becomes a coach, he knows the organization, he knows people, he knows everything in and out. So the problem where the coaches find an issue is the trust. What if I talk about my issue and it gets diluted, or it's not been taken care or take handled properly? And as we all know that coaches cannot provide solution. So technically, when they go expecting certain level of solutions and when they don't get it in written, they kind of get disappointed. And for in-house coaches, in-house ICF coaches or Marshall Goldsmith coaches, for them also they need to have a lot of self-control because they know the organization really well. They know people really well. I know the answer would be till here, but they have to gallop it. They can't spit it outside. So this is one set. Other set is it's a huge rather, who are not in-house coaches, when we are not see when a coach directly hits the organization, it's only three parties: the coach, sponsor, the coachee, right? When people like us gets into the picture, when we get into the organizational thing, then it becomes four: the sponsor, coach, coachee, and the referrer. We belong to the referrer because I would be referring coaches and they would be going to the organization. I would be invoicing for them, and the process goes on. So technically, what happens is there are lot of things where it becomes a huge challenge for the sponsor, for the coach, for the coachee, and also the referrer as well. So maybe during the questions, maybe I can answer more in detail. I don't want to reveal everything out over here. But yes, challenges are there in both the spectrum. But technically, in-house coaches are valued more because, their retention is taken in a very nice way, where, they can stay in the organization, they can expand their wings and start becoming a coach. And that also works a lot. So comparatively, in-house coaches are, I wouldn't say they're the best or they're very, very safe. Comparatively, they are safe.
Okay. So thank you so much for explaining this spectrum of two type of opportunities: the internal coach and the coach coming from the outside, and what actually the reality is. So from your 15 years of experience, when you are dealing with multiple situations as a coaching, what are some common challenges a coach faces in a corporate setting?
Okay, I got to know about ICF coaching and all in 2013. I met a trainer. So I run a training company, which is more into behavioral, and also we take care of technical things. I met a trainer who did an ICF and I was like, what is ICF? They said, ICF is all about coaching, all these things. Then see, we are into business. We all love Gandhi. So technically we wanted to make sure that, how we can start, leveraging this particular thing so that, we can refer the coach, we can invoice, we can also get paid, and we can also pay the coaches. That's how it all started. And the challenge, what we really felt was the exposure towards coaching. People are fine with training, people are okay with mentoring, and when it comes to coaching, because we go with the disclosure that we will not be giving solutions. We go with this disclosure that we will be just asking you questions. And technically the sponsor gets triggered. They'll be like, when we are paying you so much, we wanted some level of expertise from your end as well. When that doesn't happen, that becomes a predominant challenge, because we put it in the agreement also. I'll go more into detail, but I'll finish off the common challenges. The second level of challenges on the coach profile. The coach profile is the identity card. When we are referring a coach, we will not be referring only one. Few problems what we see in the profile is one, the corporate exposure. Technically, for the corporate to choose a coach, they expect a strong corporate exposure. And if they are going to handle the leadership, they should have been on a leadership role. This is one of the major criteria which organizations expect. Age matters a lot, honestly. It's not the 20s or 30s. 20s, most of the time the profile doesn't get selected. If I have a profile of 25-year-old kid, ACC or PCC for that matter, they don't select. Honestly, they reject. So they wanted certain level of maturity. They wanted certain level of, professionalism when it comes to coaches. And the profile is the major challenge. Technically, the coaches do not know how to project themselves on the paper. That becomes a huge issue. And see, I don't know you, I don't see you. So only through your profile, the sponsor would be in a position to identify whether can we go ahead with this particular person or not. So they need certain level of micro as well as macro level of information on how well you would be in a position to help the organization. That becomes the challenge. Okay. The next level of challenge is also about, uh, as I told you, the leadership level. Certainly, they wanted corporate person to come as a coach. Industry knowledge is pretty preferred. When they come to me, Abhishek, I wanted a coach. If it is going to be PCC, fantastic. MCC, great. We don't mind paying you. But that person should have exposure towards my industry. FMCG, IT, ITES, manufacturing, automobile, anything for that matter. So technically, what they expect is the industry knowledge is important. But we weren't taught that, industry knowledge is not important. But when we are giving profiles to corporate, industry knowledge is important. At least, if not the basic of, if not the expertise of industry knowledge, what they expect is the coach may have to do certain level of warm up with the organization before they start the coaching process, at least with the HR or the stakeholders. Technically, if I'm going to coach Namrita, what they expect is they need to at least have one level of meeting with HR, Namrita's boss, few of Namrita's colleagues, so that, not for judgments, at least to understand, a certain level of feed forward, how Marshall Goldsmith says, understand what it is all about. And also, for an instance, if I'm not getting my promotion in the organization, that's my problem. Okay. I need to understand in that particular organization, how many levels are there? Like, few organizations, the designations are very different. Few organizations, they don't have designations. They have only levels, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So that's how it goes on. Without knowing about how the organizational chart works, it becomes very challenging for the coach and also the coachee to have a conversation. The industry knowledge is important. If not the industry knowledge, at least do some research before getting into the company, because that's the expectation which every organization has. Number three, this becomes again a huge issue where the chemistry between the coach and the coachee. If I feel that, I don't know, whenever I recruit or whenever I get along with PCC or MCC coaches, they come with a beautiful golden crown. Yeah, we are PCC. The attitude itself changes, the conversation, the communication itself changes. And they go with the same kind of mindset to the sponsor. And when the sponsor is asking them, okay, what help you can do for my organization, they talk about themselves. Like, okay, chalo, that's all there in the profile. Fine. What are you going to do for my company? So this is what every company is expecting out of you. I think the branding is something which is exceptionally important from the coach side. Branding on the self is like important. That's for the initial 2-3 minutes. But branding on how are you going to make the process work? Because many a times the coach and the sponsor chemistry itself flips, because I would be sending 5 profiles. In that, they will be selecting 3 profiles. In that 3 profile, they would be having first level of meeting through Zoom, second level of meeting through face to face, and then they decide, because they're paying. they're paying too much, right? When they are paying too much, the meetings go like crazy. Recently, for one of the organization where I referred a coach, the particular coach is MCC from Bangalore, and there were 5 levels of meeting, 5 levels of meeting, and the coach was like, Abhishek, I don't have to attend 5 levels of meeting. I'm already in MCC. You know me, right? I'm like, okay, they're paying me. I can't say no to them. So technically, before we sign the contract with them, they expect a lot, and patience becomes an issue. And yes, how does branding? I'll let you know. So what happens over here is when I go talk, when I'm representing as a coach, that's the brand what you create, what you have, right? How as a coach you're going to help the organization, how as a coach you're going to help the individual, how are you going to align the management goals with that particular person's deliverables, all these things. And so that you need to talk about what you're going to deliver. It's not about what you are. We need to talk about the deliverables, where in that 5 minutes or 10 minutes conversation, the sponsor should feel that, oh yeah, I think I got the best coach. This is what the branding, what I'm talking about. The branding is not about you brand about yourself. No. Once it's all about the sale, right? I'm doing marketing. Once the company signs the contract and says that you are going to be the coach, that's where you've marketed yourself, you have sold your communication properly, and they're ready to purchase you. See, we are all commodities, honestly. We are selling, and we are the more like a supermarket. We kind of make coaches, trainers, leaders, auditors. We send their profiles. So the first level of branding is all about what is your picture. Recently, I got a picture of a coach, the profile of a coach. It was in a PPT slide, and it was in a coffee shop, with a coffee mug. How do you expect me to forward that particular profile to the organization? Trust me, what we expect is, if even if not a PPT or something, maybe Word document is fine. We would convert it in a PDF format, and we would be sending a nice professional photograph, and then with certain level of information what you have. I think that's something which we need, along with your credential certificates, ACC, PCC, IMCC, whatever it is. I think that's something which makes a huge impact. Certainly not with, flunky images with the coffee mug in your hand. That's certainly not going to brand you. So the chemistry. Then the next major challenge comes. The sponsor is fine. The referral is also fine. The coach is also fantastically okay with working in the organization. Now the coachee comes. Coachee would be liking you. For an instance, if I'm going to have a coaching session with Namrata, as Abhishek, as a coachee, I will like Namrata. But the problem is, if I'm not showing the progress, the HR or the sponsor will be sitting on our head. Abhishek, what happened? 3 meetings done. No change at all. They give a very sarcastic smile. And we would be like, we would be asking the coach, what happened recently. I was asking this coach. I was asking her, I just got a call from this particular company HR, and they say that, the progress has not been seen. Like, what is happening? What was her response? She said, it's very confidential, Abhishek. I can't reveal it to you. I was like, okay, but I have to go and tell the sponsor because I have to raise the invoice. If I don't raise the invoice, I can't pay you as well. So technically what happens is, the coachee may like you, coachee may love to interact with you, but honestly, what we expect is the coach cannot be over friendly, or the coach cannot be like wearing that golden hat and say that I'm the coach. You have to listen. Not that. So it has to be in the middle of the way, where I have to make sure that I am comfortable with the coachee. I'm making the coachee comfortable. At the same time, making sure that I I know what kind of questions I need to ask. How am I going to make the coachee accountable? So when the next meeting comes, what is going to be the project or the assignment you're going to give, or challenge what you're going to give them. I think this is something. Maybe first 2 coaching meeting, we don't expect any kind of a change. Honestly, that's what we put it in the agreement also. When I make the agreement, I tell it the sponsor that you cannot expect the change in the first 2 meetings. You may have to give us minimum 45-60 days. After 60 days, if there is no change, then yes, we may have to go on with it. Then yes, we also tell the coach, because since we are also invoicing, we tell the coach, have a meeting, because as someone rightly asked, confidentiality. Yes, because there are a lot of times where as a coach, you would be listening to lot of things, but before coming for a main meeting where the sponsor would be there, the stakeholders, let's not even use the word sponsor, stakeholders. The stakeholders would be there. Before talking or before divulging the information to the stakeholders, the coach have to get the consensus from the coachee that this is what I'm going to talk to your boss. This is what I'm going to tell them. Because initially, even this is there in my contract. Initially, that was not there in my contract. The challenge, what happened was, without the coach's knowledge, the coach started revealing the information. The coachee was like, no, 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 no. This is not something what you can tell, right? So, we what we start doing is, now we have loads of paperwork. Honestly, that's the biggest challenge which we are also facing. We have huge paperwork. We have pre-assessment, we have progress assessment, we have post-assessment, and we also have a format where, if they're going to meet the stakeholders, what are they going to take, what are they going to talk, the agenda, what are the points which they're going to talk, and they have to get the sign from the coachee also, saying that as a coachee, I'm fine with it. You can discuss about this to my boss or the stakeholders. So when we have a common meeting where the coachee, coach, and the respective stakeholders are there, when they're going to have a common conversation, where is it aligning or not, the coachee is very comfortable because he knows that I've already signed it. So, we also learn when we face these kind of challenges, we also started customizing our agreements, our contracts in a better way so that, all of us are safe. Because even if one place, we don't feel that comfort, they cancel it. And financially, it's a huge loss for us also. Because, when we tie up for 6 months and when the contract gets closed within second month, that's it. And few times the companies have also not paid us, saying that, there was no progress in the coachee. There was no progress in the coachee. The coachee felt good. Coachee gave a good feedback about the coach, but there is no progress. So how do you ascertain the progress? That's also a next important challenge, because you as a coach have to understand what is the real challenge, and is this particular challenge is aligning to the organizational goals or the stakeholders' expectation. So once that kind of gets cleared, then that's where you can start getting into the agreement part, where, what are we going to do, how are we going to do the first few sessions, what are we aiming to achieve. So all these things comes into the picture. Honestly, when I was referring coaches, the things were completely different. Once I became a coach, just to understand how it works, it's completely different. The next challenge, what I want to tell you is, when we are doing peer coaching, honestly, we all talk about journaling, not reading books. We talk about all silly matters, but the corporate coaching is completely different altogether. Before
Hansi,
COVID, please,
Dr. Abhishek, just a pause.
please,
There is a question before you move to the next topic.
please.
Hansi has a question on the same thing of, so where is that line the coach has to, it's a breach of confidentiality if he's giving the information. So how does he kind of navigate this so many stakeholder and still keeping the confidentiality intact? Can you share an example that would really help?
Okay. As I was telling you, initially we never had a document for having stakeholders meeting. It would be like a conversation would be happening from the coachee, and then we would be having a stakeholders meeting. In the stakeholders meeting, the coach have to talk about what has been the discussion, what has been the progress, all these things. But suddenly, what happened was that particular organization, I work as a trainer. So I know most of the people out over there. Since my face is so visible, I can't do the coaching. So I have to bring someone from outside. That particular person came to me. He said, Abhishek, you know what? The coach did not, maintain the confidentiality. What I spoke to him, he revealed it in front of people. He said, I did it in front of you only. So the problem is, I should have told him that, do not talk about this. I also forgot to tell him. And he also did not double tap on, whether I can talk about this or not. But the information has passed, which I didn't feel comfortable. So that kind of sparked me. And that's the reason we came out with a document where, that particular document would talk about what are we going to discuss with the stakeholders, what are the points, the agenda points, and why those agenda points, and how is that going to help the coachee as well as the organization. This is more like a running document, which will be prepared by the coach, will be mailed to the coachee. The coachee will be going through with all these things. He will sign the document saying that, yes, this can be discussed with the stakeholders. Once he gives the consensus that, this can be discussed, then yes, the coach would be talking about this. But apart from what has been discussed, what has been written in the paper, nothing can be spoken.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, really, Dr. For your reply. I just would like to have another question relevant to this.
Please.
What if the coach decides to divulge only the action plan after each coaching session to the stakeholder or the sponsor? Would be okay from the ICF perspective, or it is again divulging information and breaching confidentiality? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andy. It's like, honestly, we don't go with ICF perspective. We go with the company's perspective or the coach's perspective, because, every company have their own level of expectations. So, action plans can be discussed, but only after getting the consensus of the coachee. So this is what the action plan which you have spoken to me. This is what is there in your progress chart. We also maintain a progress chart where, after every session, they have to talk about what was the previous session's progress plan which they gave, what is the, where are they right now, and what is going to be the new identification which they've got in this particular session, and how are they going to help themselves, like, in the organizational perspective, then after the next session. So when they give it, we get it in writing from them. We also ask them, can we share this with the management? With the consensus, we ask them. Few companies, what they do is, the coachee themselves types it, they mail it. So they don't ask the coach to do it. The coachee themselves, they would be mailing it to the respective stakeholders along with the coachee. So the two column, all the stakeholders would be there. In the CC, the coach would be there. So the coach is also aware what they have typed, so that based on that, it becomes a running document. So it's more like a case file, like how a lawyer has it. So there would be a file every time, we take over it, we see how the progress goes. Few organizations, they go with paper. Few organizations, they go with the folders, the Google Drives, so, or their own internal ERPs, through that, we also get the password. So if there is going to be a coaching, for instance, like, big Tier A organizations, we get password also, so that only the stakeholders can open it and see it, not anyone else. So these kind of confidentialities are also there, which is favorable for both the coachee as well as the stakeholders of the organization.
Yes, Guru, you have raised the hand. Guru have one question. Is it related to this? Yes, you can unmute and ask.
I was just wanting to offer Dr. Abhishek, because he was saying something, but he got interjected. Dr. Abhishek, you were on a flow of thought where you said, corporate coaching is really very difficult. And then you wanted to say something, and that's when you got cut off. So I just thought I'd let you take this cue.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Guru. So what I want to tell you is, for the new coaches, people who've just completed their ACC or ACC, PCC together, what happens over here is, recently I was just talking to a few coaches. We had a coaching meeting with my people who are associated with my company. So what happened was, when we do peer coaching, we don't really talk about the corporate scenarios or the corporate issues, what we are going through. The experienced coaches, people who have been in the organizational coaching, if they had covered all the 500 hours with the corporate coaching, the way they see things and the way people do through peer coaching, it's completely different. In peer coaching, we talk about journaling. We talk about, I'm not reading books. I am not in a position to, write my diary. I'm not journaling. So these are the topics predominantly we talk. Even when I was also trying to cover my 500 hours, the initial hours of peer coaching was more into these kind of topics. But when we go on to the organizational level, if they are new coaches, I'm not talking about established coaches. If I'm talking about the new coach, when they're getting into the organization, the issues are very, very dynamic. There are a lot of data orientation. There are a lot of, emotional things which are inclined with the, thing. Because as a coachee, for an instance, an example, recently there was there was an issue where the coachee is the senior vice president of the organization. Okay, he has to fire a next level person. The organization was expecting him to go off because technically his CTC was very, very high. But this guy, the senior vice president, feels that he has added a lot of value in the organization. I don't know how to convince the management to retain him because he has added more value. And I know very well as his boss, I can get more value from him. But I don't know what made the management, to come with the flavor of asking him to move. And for his CTC, he can't get a job anywhere immediately. And I can't also afford to lose him. So I am in a fix where I don't know what to do. So these kind of things which will happen, where the coach would be like, okay, what kind of questions am I supposed to ask? We know very well that the management has asked the person to leave. At the same time, the senior vice president, who's the coachee in this particular game, he feels that I don't want to let this guy go off. So just I don't want to talk about the case more in detail, but what I'm telling is the dynamism or the cases what the coaches get onto the market are completely different. Very, very different, very different. And but for experienced coaches it becomes fine because they've already handled these kind of things. And number two, if they come with a corporate background, it is easy. It is seriously easy because that also helps in the maturity. Because most of the coaches who are associated with my company are 45 plus, and they were all working as senior level people, senior level leaders. So when I send those profiles, immediately they get picked up. But if I'm going to send a profile at the age of 30, or 35 or 27 or 28, they don't even look into those profiles. And I tell them that, even in the cost benefit, for an instance, people at the age of 45, 50, the cost what they incur from a coaching session is different. People at the age of 20s or 25 or 30s, the cost is comparatively different. But the organization is ready to pay. They're ready to pay, but they don't want to risk by recruiting a youngster. Again, the spectacles, gray hair, beard, I think these kind of works a lot, Technically, yes. And after the first level of meeting, they also feel good about it because they show a lot of maturity in their conversation. When we have two levels of people talking, early 20s and 30s talking, early 40s and 50s talking, the maturity, what they come with, the conversation, what they take on, and when they come with certain level of, the baggages, the past experiences which they have, it really helps them. But today, we have a lot of 30s who are getting into coaching. We have a lot of people who are aspiring to become the best coaches. But only one thing what I would tell everyone is the profile. The profile has to look exceptionally good. It is not about a beautiful profile pic. Even without a profile pic, we can sell the profile. But the profile has to speak about you, what you are. And coaching doesn't stop with your credentials. It's also about, that's the time where you actually need to start enriching yourself more. What kind of tools you're going to use, what kind of techniques you're going to use. Many a times what happens is they don't know what kind of technique they need to use. You need to be very handy about techniques and tools as a coach, because that's where you can start challenging people. Let's not only get stuck with grow model or the wheel of life. I think there are multiple models which we have, which you have T model, B model, U model, I model. You have multiple models which are there in the market. Personally, what I started using was I is that's what I'm also writing as a book also. I is basically like the standing line is basically the functional knowledge, what you need to have as a coach. What is your niche? What are you good at? And the top sleeping line is all about, cross functional knowledge, where you need to understand what kind of industry you're going through with. The basic ideology should be there. And the bottom sleeping line is also about competition knowledge. Understand what other coaches are doing. Start networking with other coaches, what they do, share their experiences, because other person's experience could be your big data, where you can start understanding what is happening. So I think more than coaching, the baseline is all about, how do you prepare yourself as a better coach? Because it's every day is a learning progress for you. So if that is being tapped properly, if we can start thinking that as a coach, I am not the best, I am still learning. I am learning. By getting a credential of PCC and MCC is certainly not going to make you as a better coach. It's only every individual is like a book to you. Every coachee is like a book to you. After you finish every coaching assignment with that particular coachee, the amount of knowledge what you get through that particular process is immaculate. And you cannot follow the same process every coaching. What I do with Guru, I cannot do it with Namrata. What I now do with Namrata, I cannot do with Lynette. Because every person are different. We can't go with the baggage. We can't go with judgments also. Your brain has to be clean. It has to be like fresh, and it has to go with no level of expectation. And that needs a lot of maturity. It really needs maturity. Again, age is just a number. I am not going to go too much onto it. But yes, if I can have a very matured level of conversation with the sponsors, I think it becomes easy for us also as a referrer, to brand the coaches. Otherwise, the initial one or two conversation itself, the sponsors feel that, no, Abhishek, let's have some other profile. And getting profile is easy, but selling the profile becomes difficult for us. If I put it in a group where I need a coach, I get at least 25, 30 coaches. But when I give it to the, again, we have a level of filtering, people who give it in the PPT, people who doesn't even know what is alignment all about, when they have a very funky photographs, and when there are a lot of grammatical errors in their own descripts, we don't select it. Out of 25 or 30 profiles, what we get, we send only 5. In that 5 also, they select only 2. In that 2, they reject 2. And again, we have to go back. We have to start headhunting. It becomes like, oh my God. So technically, what we tell our the coaches is like, see, talk about your process, talk about the models, talk about what you're going to do. And then, send your profile to us. And do not talk about yourself more. Yes, that is needed for the first 2-3 minutes, but then start customizing your level. How are you going to help the organization? If that ice is broken, honestly, there won't be a challenge. It would be an opportunity for many coaches to move, because coaching is not a very, that's the last point what I want to talk about here. When it comes to India, coaching is not a very well received option. It's a very costly option. It's more like, if you're hungry, you can't go to Taj, right? You go to immediate nearby hotels, to finish it. So coaching is a very costly experiment, which people don't take it immediately. But if you have industry presence, for me, when I send coaches who also have training experience, or who are leadership consultants, or who are HR auditors or organizational auditors. These kind of people, their profile gets sold immediately. But if at all I have to sell myself in the market without the corporate exposure, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult. They would certainly expect your corporate exposure. At least, when I know the ex-Dell, ex-Deloitte, ex-Johnson and Johnson, ex-Google, ex-Infosys, that works. That works. Oh, you've worked in there. That creates a huge impact. A huge impact. Or even if you're going to be a consultant, at least minimum 15 years of industry experience is expected out of you. How and what you do, how have you driven, and especially they ask you for referrals. They certainly ask you for references from the previous organization, not from the coachee, not the coachee's reference. They ask the sponsor's reference. They want to ask the sponsor because they want to make sure that, am I investing on the right person or not? So at least we send 3 to 4 sponsor details for the particular coach. So when I ask the coach for the sponsor's details, they would be like, no, it's confidential. Like, if you have to get the business, you have to give me the details. So without any kind of insecurity, the coaches may have to give me the sponsor's details. That's where, we can give the profile along with, we send the sponsor's details also. You can contact this particular person's contact number, email address would be there. So you can contact them, and they do it. The companies, HR, they do this. They call up that particular client. They ask how we are planning to, invest, or we are planning to recruit this particular coach for our organizational leaders. How is he? They ask. They get the feedback from about the coach, and then they come back to us saying that, out of these 3 coaches, we are okay with these 2 coaches. So yes, it's a huge process. It's not as easy as we think. So I think selling a trainer's profile is easy than selling a coach profile, because we do both. So technically, it's very important. And now, most importantly, the competencies of the coach is also equally important. Very strongly, it is also expected. If the internal coach, if the HR is a coach by herself or himself, ICF coach, They ask a lot of questions. They ask skill-based questions. They ask, the competency-based question. So whether what kind of competency, and I'm like, wow, what is this? I never expected this. Because all along, we have never seen this kind of a thing. Recently, when I was talking to my client, she is ICF PCC. She's an internal coach, but since she can't train her own leaders, she was asking me for the profiles. So when I sent the profile, first level of meeting was through Zoom, and she was asking core competencies, and they were like, okay. And through that, profiles were selected. So now the next challenge is we got to keep our core competencies very, very strong. 37, or including the first two, 39. Keep that very, very strong. It will not only help in our ICF credential exam, but also when we have an interview with the internal team, the stakeholders, yes, that really works out. That really helps us out.
Wow, what a super duper session it was. So it was like so many things, Abhishek, you have shared, and the what I really liked is coaching doesn't stop with credential. It actually starts, and you have to keep on upgrading yourself, upskilling yourself, right? And there are so many important things which you mentioned, like a profile, the chemistry, the progress, and many things. And we do have so many questions in the chat. Sunita, would you like to take them? I mean, uh, just let me go through
Sure.
yeah.
And there are also some questions which had come before. So how do you want me to do that?
You can just go however you want to, not an issue.
Okay. So this is a question from Rahul Srinivasan, which is based on the, again, what is right kind of question. The competency says that a coach must be comfortable with working in a space of not knowing. Okay, so he is not the subject matter expert, so to say. Can a handover session from the sponsor be of help, even though one may not have industry experience?
That's what I told you. That's what I told you, where, before meeting the coachee, you have to have a meeting with the HR or the stakeholders to understand how it works. That's what I gave an example also. Few organizations, they have a designation levels like assistant manager, deputy manager, manager. Few organizations, they don't go with this. They go with the L1, L2, B1, B2, A1, A2, something of that sort. So technically, you need to talk to the HR or the sponsors to understand what is the industry, what is the climate which they are going to work with, how the company process works. Trust me, they give you all the details, including what are the designation systems, how our organization work, how many years once the person would be getting promoted, what are the promotion criteria. All these details would be given. But yes, before the coaching process, the coach may have to do certain level of research. You don't have to be a subject matter expert, but yes, you should be open to learn on what is the company with whom you're going to work with.
Great. Another question, Dr. Abhishek, and this is coming from pre-given question. How do you align team and management expectations from each other? And there is similar question on the same theme. What should the coach do if corporate goals clash with the individual goal, and there is no concrete agreement on the difference in the stakeholders' expectations?
Okay, very simple. Right, since we are making the pay documents very, very strong, the misalignment doesn't happen. The alignment has to happen. Only when there is an alignment, the coach enters into the contracting. Otherwise, we will not be doing coaching. The reason why referrals are also there, because we need to understand what is going to be the individual goal and also the organizational goal. Is it really matching? Number one. Number two, the first level of goals comes from the stakeholders only, because they've already identified, they've already done the groundwork. And then coming over to the individual, we would be telling the individual, this is where you're going to get coached. They have an internal meeting also in that. Once the coachee is also clear that, okay, yeah, I'm going to get coached on this particular thing, the coach enters into it. Initially, in the organization level, they have a first level of meeting, second level of meeting. Once the coachee gets comfortable with all these inputs, that's where he signed into the contract saying that I'm ready for getting coached. So the misalignment will not happen. the alignment would be there. And that's where the agreement also talks about. All the three parties may have to sign: the stakeholder, coach, coachee.
That makes me ask you a very, logical question here is typical, what is the time frame for you to get a contract in place? Because these do take a lot of conversations.
True. With senior level people, it's a pain in the wrong end. Honestly, they don't open up that easily. They would have ego clashes. In the organization level, they put the sign. Okay. They will start showing attitude only in the with the coach. The first level of coaching time, they would be like, you know what? I know this. I know that. The way they talk, the tone would be itself completely different. And many a times the coaches would be like, I think Abhishek, I may not be in a position to work with them. It's very difficult. I am not in a position to get the contract ready. So what we do is, when we know that this kind of person is there, personality is there, we also align same kind of profile, who's much more matured, much more sane, who can handle this kind of conflicts. So with middle level, it's fine. It's very comfortable. With senior level, it's beautiful pain. It's like, without anesthesia, it's conducting a surgery, honestly. So it's like the pain the coach go through. They have to be emotionally very, very strong if they are going to handle the senior level people. The first 2-3 sessions, you can't see any progress. Honestly, I'm telling you. 2-3 sessions is going to be pain. But once you get that chemistry done, if they really like you, if they can start interacting with you, it is not only on the coach. Even after that, also you may have to talk to them. Coffee conversation works, random conversation works, and then getting on the board becomes easy. So what I would suggest is, if you're going to handle a senior level, have a coffee conversation or a random conversation, make them feel comfortable with you. I think falling in love at first sight has to happen if the coaching has to go well.
Great.
Yeah, and Deepali had kind of a similar questions like, when one comes with the industry experience, how important it is to have an ACC or onward credentials?
Important for your brand. Credentials are basically for your branding. Technically, when we show that certificate saying that, is a MCC or a PCC, we don't take most of ACCs because ACC profiles are not accepted immediately. PCC is okay, yeah, the next level of meeting happens. MCC, yeah, it's like, oh, MCC, that happens, okay, that O factor happens with MCCs. But for PCCs, they may have to go through rounds of meetings. But industry knowledge is, I would say, 30 is to 40 is to 30. 30% of industry knowledge is important. 40% of your credentials are important. The remaining 30% is like, do research. Do research, have conversations with the organization, have a coffee conversation with your coachee before you start the session. Once you're on the table, you need to both have to feel comfortable. Even if one person is not comfortable, that's it, gone. That's what we say, in Telugu, Vedagunda Vada Venkatramana Govinda Govinda. The session goes on for a toss. So it doesn't go any productive way, honestly. It becomes a pain factor. And they don't pay us. That's the most biggest pain. And we have to follow for the payments also. So it becomes very difficult. And yeah, last but not the least, if you really wanted to do something on the coaching fraternity in terms of payments, have an agreement very clear. I think without agreement, if coaches go, then it's going to be like a huge pain in the wrong end. Payment has to be done at least 25-30% before we start the process. During the process, 30-40%. The remaining 30%, during the completion, because it is not 1 day or 2 days matter, right? It goes up to 3, 4, 5, 6 months also at times. If we're going to have 6 sessions with that particular person, monthly once. And the best part is, I forgot to tell about this. The beautiful part is last minute cancellations. As a coach, you should be open for it. If you're going to coach the senior level people, 1 hour before, the coach would be getting a message from the leader saying that, oh, today I have an urgent meeting. We may not be in a position to meet. Let's meet up sometime later. That's it. And getting that follow-up becomes huge difficult for us also, because once it gets cancelled, then it becomes a cycle. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And what happens is, the cancellation comes in 2 ways. One, if they're really busy, the cancellation comes. If they are not very happy with the coach also, the cancellation comes. If they are not going to schedule the meeting immediately, which means that they don't love you anymore. So we have to give them some other coach. That also happened. So with 2 sessions, the coach was there. The third session, the coach was changed. So yes, if the cancellations are frequent, which means that they're not very happy. This comes only from the senior level people. So we also get to know about it. So immediately as a referrer, I have to send them another 2 or 3 profiles. There are a lot of times where the coach also interviews, the coachee also interviews. The coachee meets, if the person is associate vice president, senior vice president, or like executive director, if they have this kind of designations, they meet the coach also. They have a meeting. It's more like an interview, and they see, what are you going to do in my life? So that's how they ask questions. If the answering or if the conversations are comfortable, then they recruit you. If not, we have to flip it and we have to give some other coaches.
Okay. And we have one more question, that is there a checklist to inquire about while contracting the sponsor?
See, we don't have a checklist kind of thing. The checklist also changes from the company to company, honestly. If you're going with manufacturing industries, as a sponsor, matlab, the company as a sponsor, they give a checklist to us. These are the requirements which we need. These are the requirements which we need from the coach before we empanel them. When they don't have a checklist, we understand what they wanted, we customize the checklist accordingly, and we send it to them. Once they approve the checklist, then we give it to the coach, we ask them to fill it, blah 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 blah, and it happens. So there is no skeleton checklist out over here. The checklist changes from company to company.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much for that. And I open this floor to everyone in the audience. We can have one last question if anyone would like to unmute and ask.
Yeah, Doctor, thank you so much for your replies to my questions and your rich session, of course. If I may ask, the process of contracting since the inception of the beginning of till coach is delivering his first session, how long does it take? Work, come and go. To what extent you feel frustrated and you might let go of that client? Thank you.
Honestly, we try not to let go the client off, because when we have Gandhi out over there, we are very patriotic towards it. So anything which we have monetary things, we don't let them go off. See, the contracting part, we have a lot of things. One, we have the internal legal team. They would be preparing a legal document. So that's where the process starts. Then 1 or 2 sets of meeting with the coach also happens, and their expectations will also be taken into the agreement part when they are doing it. The internal legal team would make the thing ready, and we sign off. If I'm the referral will sign, the sponsor will sign, the HR will sign, the coach will sign, the coachee will also sign. So there would be multiple signatures which would be happening over there. But from my end, what I do is we also go with the pre-forms. Understanding form, understanding what is their expectation all about. We keep a lot of documents, honestly, which is a very boring thing, but we have no other option. We have to come out with a lot of documentation if we need to get the contract right. Otherwise, what happens is, my intention to talk about some matter would be there, but I would not be talking about it. I would be just going somewhere, and that particular matter would be very, very hot, very, very happening. As a coach, we also get carried away with it. We would be moving on. Only in the first review with the sponsor, you would be understanding, the contract was different. What we spoke was different. So, that's where the problem also comes. So we would be having certain level of places where, if there is going to be a new topic, the new topic can also be stuffed, not an issue. But the core topic should not be left aside. The KPI is important. Apart from KPI, you do multiple work, no problem. But we would be focusing on the KPI. So that is where the contracting helps. When the coach gets the document from the company that this particular person needs this is what it is all about. When it has been signed, the navigation becomes easy for the coach as well as the coachee, because they would be going in the right direction. The agreement becomes your Google map. It helps you to take you to the right direction. And yes, 1 or 2 stops can be accepted,
but not multiple stops.
Yes. So thank you so much. And we all are getting lot of value from this session, Abhishek. But we need to mindful about the time. So let me thank you for this enriching experience. Almost, we got answers to almost all the questions. I was just going through the questions which we got during the registrations. All the answers you have given in very nice way. So thank you so much, first of all, for accepting our request and sharing your valuable insights with all of us. Believe
It's
me,
all the pain factor, that's it. When you see more pain, you get more knowledge.
but to all the pain factors, I was about to ask afterwards that what would be the solutions, but after each challenge, you were immediately giving the solutions, how to manage those things. And this shows that, I always say this experience matters. So you have learned, gone through those pain points, find out the solutions, and you have shared those solutions with us, which will help us in our forward journey. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks
And
a lot.
yes. So any last minute thought from anyone in the audience who would like to share their experience about this session?
I wanted to check if Dr. Abhishek is comfortable to be reached out on LinkedIn or something. Is it okay?
Yeah, with pleasure. I'll put my LinkedIn profile out over here in the
Thank
chat.
you. No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll be great.
Yeah, and I'm going to run a poll meanwhile. Just give me a moment. Let me know if you can see this poll.
Yes, we can see.
Yes. So this is just about a feedback.
There are how many questions? 2.
2 questions are there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And as expected, so it's almost 91%. We all feel that this session was very, very helpful, right? So yes, I guess you have, Abhishek, you have put it in your, yes, the LinkedIn profile. Yes, we can always reach to Abhishek on LinkedIn, as well as if you have any questions, you can, yes, and you can drop the questions in the coaching conversation groups as well. And I'm sure Abhishek will be happy to answer those questions.
Voice note. That's it. I'm bad at messaging. So voice note. Akka.
Okay, Paka. Yes. So thank you so much for this. Yeah, so sorry. And I'm just close. Yeah, so thank you so much once again, and have a nice day afterwards. And just one announcement that I'm sure you all will get the invitation, but on the 1st of November, we have our next meet and greet session. So I invite you all for that meet and greet session, and soon you'll be getting the invitation in the groups.
Thank you. Happy weekend to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank